Are you an entrepreneur or business owner looking to level up your business? Are you in search of investors? Or do you need management consultancy, guidance, and support? If so, Round One is for you. Round One is an online platform that matches your company to potential investors and partners from all over the country. Through the Round One platform, you can pitch your business, promote your product or service, and reach out to potential funders, all through our easy-to-use online platform. But we are more than just a platform. Immerse yourself in a wide network of investors, incubators, and advisors, all ready to help you throughout your fundraising journey. Round One is managed by Eastern Securities Development Corporation, a registered Philippine stock brokerage. Through our partnerships with various banking and financial institutions, collaboration with some of the best advisors in the field, and through our work with other government, educational, and private organizations, we aim to bring your business to higher heights. Now the only question is, are you ready for the next round? Let Round One help you transform your ideas into reality. Follow us on social media at round1.ph and reach out to us at info@round1.ph.
Welcome, participant, to the Exploring Equity Crowdfunding in the Philippines. Good afternoon to our organizers, QBO Innovation Hub, Idea Space, to our partners, the OST, DTI, the Philippine Startup Week team, the startup community, and fellow crowdfunding advocates. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miguel De La Rosa. I'm the marketing manager of Round One, and I will be your host for today. After having heard all the amazing stories and insights from the various speakers and companies throughout this week, we at Round One hope we can likewise inspire the startups gathered here today and give you all better understanding of the equity crowdfunding space in the Philippines. As you may already know, Round One is a business community that matches businesses with investors, advisors, and other entrepreneurs. So in line with the Venture Pilipinas Pitch Competition, we are also awarding the winners of the Best Business Pitch Award to 5 promising and innovative startups who will win 25,000 worth of advisory services and a chance to raise up to 50 million on our platform. We encourage you to leave your question in the chat box so our panel speakers can answer them during the question and answer portion. Now to the main event. Our speaker for today is the business unit lead of Round One and is a graduate from the University of California, Irvine, with a degree in sociology and business. He specializes in market education, financial literacy, and investment advisory, and brings his extensive experience as SEC licensed fixed income market securities trader in his role as the Vice President of Operations and Marketing for Eastern Securities Development Corporation, or ESDC, the stock brokerage that manages Round One. He is also a director of Premier Holiday Alliance, PHA, where he leads the company in navigating industry's regulatory landscape and engage in financial innovation. Everyone, let us give a warm virtual welcome to Mr. Brandon Yong.
Thank you, Sir Miggs, for that introduction. First of all, it's a wonderful opportunity to address this community. I'm so honored, and also to have a chance to promote crowdfunding in the Philippines. Just like you here, all of you here, Round One started as a startup. We developed this platform from the ground up. The business model itself was so new in the Philippines, we really had to drawing board sort of a lot of the core concepts around the regulations. We obtained investor funding, we bootstrapped. Heck, I even authored some of the operation manuals myself under the guidance of my compliance team. We made the decks, we did the projections and valuations. We got to where we are standing before you today that way.
My wife made that video and I did the voiceover, the one you saw at the beginning of this presentation. No way did our team have the budget to spend on an American accent. So, with this project, we realized how important it was to remember the startup entrepreneur's journey. My team and I were reminded at every step how damn hard you startups work to get to where you are today. The sleepless nights, the tense meetings, the all-night working groups, the lonely feeling of having a great idea that no one else believes in yet. We've done that, we've been there. That being said, we've also had a lot of financial industry support and support from business groups to launch this concept, including the leverage of our core competencies in our stock brokerage operations to ensure a secure and easy-to-use online fundraising mechanism, and one that respects the investing public, industry players, and regulators alike. A community that tightens all the threads together that go to supporting entrepreneurs. Round One was envisioned to be a local equity crowdfunding platform that would be an ecosystem centered around the Philippine entrepreneur and startups. More than just a space to just pitch and fundraise, it would be a part of this larger environment of connecting startups to the financial resources and expertise they need to grow and expand. Expertise like incubators, accelerators, and seed funds. A collegiate atmosphere to guide young startups away from mistakes and poor decisions and towards better ones. To provide guidance where it's most crucial and needed at the early stage. There's a lot of different types of crowdfunding out there, but equity crowdfunding is truly unique in that it is the truest way an investor can be binded to the fate of your company. Ignoring sort of the perennial academic question about your debt equity mix, there's something really special about the presence of an investor, a complete stranger that has decided that they have bought into your dream and your particular vision of a better, more prosperous world. This particular uniqueness means no other form of crowdfunding quite has the support of its investors than you do. And to some extent, that affects how much money you will ultimately raise through this program. It can also be a double-edged sword because equity investors have as much of a right to directly question or criticize management decisions as any other shareholder. On the other hand, they could also remain passive. Funding sizes can go as low as a fraction of percentages when it comes to raises on this platform. So you may or may not have, you most likely won't have sort of issues with activist investors, if that's sort of a concern for crowdfunding ventures. But more often than not, you'll find equity investors to be surprisingly committed to helping their early stage investments out, whether that be through referrals, partnerships, or networking opportunities. Since I'm speaking to a vast majority of people here that probably understand what it takes to get investment ready, I'm not going to really talk about what crowdfunding is. Instead, I'd like to focus my talk on how crowdfunding works, or rather, how it's going to work in the Philippines. Equity crowdfunding rules were regularized sometime around mid-2019, pre-pandemic. Similar rules were rationalized around the same time in other Southeast Asian countries as a push towards promoting digital innovation in the region. The SEC memorandum in the Philippines laid out ground rules for how public fundraising through a digital platform could be performed, along with assurances on compliance monitoring and investor protections. The important thing to understand about so-called public fundraising, or the important thing to understand about how so-called public fundraising can be performed is that first, you can't really publicly fundraise. And secondly, there's a limit to the amount of individual investors you can have. But wait, you might be asking me, what's an IPO? Doesn't that mean initial public offering? Yes, public fundraising means getting up there on a big platform like the stock market, telling people you have an investment. But there is a long process to register your company with the stock exchange and the SEC before listing, not to mention certain limits on the size of your company and the size of your investment raise that may restrict smaller companies from accessing that channel for public fundraising. This issue is related to sort of the proliferation of investment scams out there and our lawmakers' desire to protect the investing public. Imagine how easy it would be to just take investor cash through a public platform like Facebook or Instagram and then run away with it. Therefore, there is a long process to go before you IPO. And if you don't IPO, there are still restrictions on publicly soliciting investments. The Philippine SEC crowdfunding regulations turns sort of that all on its head, Platforms like Round One are registered with the government, regulated, and subject to audit. Because the Round One platform and business unit will be managed by a local Philippine-based financial institution, as mentioned earlier, stock brokerage, you can rest assured that investor funds and your private data are handled under a similar regulatory framework as a bank or an insurance company. Crowdfunding campaigns are also capped at 50 million pesos per annum in order to minimize the impact that any one bad apple investment would have on the general investing public. That being said, we as an organization still go to great lengths to warn investors that crowdfunding issues are of a higher risk than even stock market and definitely traditional investments, and the risk of having little to no return is quite substantial. Because of the regulatory risks, operators of crowdfunding platforms such as Round One must perform a preliminary due diligence on all fundraisers, such as some of you in the audience today. This includes things like checking if you're a real company with the SEC, identifying if your key management are qualified, upstanding citizens. This is all part of the transparency element of the regulations that govern crowdfunding here in the Philippines. We do this with an ultimate purpose, which is to protect our investors and to build trust in the platform, allowing you legitimate companies out there even greater ease in having the visibility you'll need in obtaining investments. So just a little side note, that's what you see here. You're actually seeing some snapshots of our platform. SEC approval pending, I must mention. My lawyers remind me to mention. And as you can see, the profile is a public profile. It contains details about your company that are visible to the public. However, some of the more sort of investor due diligence related materials are sign-up gated, are registration gated. So not everything is public to any user on the platform. But this is just to sort of give you a flavor of what you'd look like on that digital stage. The next thing we do is ensure you are investment ready and onboard you onto the platform. And for many of you that have been through entrepreneurship programs, accelerators, and incubators, you more or less know what we're looking for: business plans, marketing materials, projections and valuations, and so on. The only thing I personally suggest from my perspective in this early stage of the raise is to never stop working on your story. Keep expanding, defining, and refining your value propositions. Convey the message of your team's passion and grit and how that will set you apart from your competitors and other investments on this platform. Other than what you could do from a technical standpoint, such as business plans or your financials, you must always promote the vision that your company was built on to inspire investors and audiences alike. Make the story behind your numbers come alive with the impact that you're making on your stakeholders, your society, your environment, and the problems that we face in our country. This is perhaps the key consideration in going the crowdfunding route. It is a very public endeavor. If you put yourself on the stage, you're going to have to get ready to get tomatoes thrown at you if people don't like your story. On the flip side, your business will now be visible on a national, regional, and global scale. For the most part, foreign investors can invest in your company, and that is perhaps the biggest vision of the platform: to create a portal for the world that showcases the best and the brightest of the Philippine startup, MSME, and innovations community. As we garner more issuers, more campaigns, and as the platform grows, data analytics will allow us to match better and faster, finding investors with the objectives and suitability profiles that match your company's prospects and future plans. Although we're a startup, our parent company is a duly licensed 40-year-old Philippine stock brokerage, and many of our partners and advisors are career investment bankers, qualified investors, and financial professionals themselves. Our intention is to lend our expertise to what you have, wherever you are in your journey, and let you step out into the limelight with our guidance and support as field experts. Maybe you're past the early stage and ready for series. Maybe you're dreaming of an IPO. We've developed a niche in the investment industry value chain to bring you from startup to stock market with the network we've developed. Our platform is very simple, but intends to showcase your startup in a clean, legible, standardized format. You simply upload content to your public profile, register a campaign, await review and approval by our team, and then do your investor relations through this digital platform. The platform lets you do most everything, but the value proposition is simple. Ditch the endless in-person fundraising pitches and reach a massive, potentially international audience on this website. Then rest assured, a licensed fiduciary, such as ourselves, handles the rest. The second value proposition is the platform's ability to perform what's called secondary market operations and to facilitate other liquidation events. This has a big bearing on early investors, but it also increases the value of your company. Your company shares become exchangeable by this mechanism that we operate and allows equity to change hands to other investors. Crowdfunding, in my opinion, is the top of the mountain, of the other side of the coin when it comes to the financial industry's truest and most valuable form to society. Billion-dollar raises, mega conglomerates, investment banks being sort of the coin's flip side's more popular side. But the vision of communities investing in themselves, people investing in each other, working towards a better future is every bit as important, if not more so. Imagine being able to crowdfund schools and clinics for your communities, to support local businesses through direct investments, to plant a seed in the next idea that is going to change the world, and watching it grow into something big and amazing. Imagine crowdfunding a wind farm and electrifying far-flung areas. Imagine crowdfunding an agriventure to provide livelihood to conflict areas, providing peace through progress and prosperity. Crowdfunding local supply chains for one town, one product programs. Imagine a world where you can share dreams and make them come true. This can be the world we live in if we tap into the greatest of human potential through the crowd, social networks, and pooling our resources together. This is where we can be if we join together and bind our fates to one another. The pandemic has decimated hope and the entrepreneurial spirit. But by showcasing your business, we will shine through that storm of our darkest hour. Who knows who you'll meet through the platform? An investor who can bring your product to an overseas market like Japan or Singapore, an investor in a complementing industry, maybe a mentor or a new partner. At its core, Round One is a community of businesses, a network of business people, and an ecosystem of change and innovation. I'm inviting everyone here to consider our platform, not just as a source of funding, but as an inspiration to all Filipino entrepreneurs, big and small. You're damn right we can do it. Dream bigger than you've ever dreamed before. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you for that insightful talk, Sir Brandon. So I hope everyone were able to check if crowdfunding is for your business. And for the next part of our program, we will be joined by Mr. Roberto Bob Ortiz for our panel discussion. Bob has more than 27 years of experience as a CFO and board member for various local and multinational corporations engaged in manufacturing, retail, and commodities trading. He has previously worked with Joaquin Cunanan and company Price Waterhouse, where he focused on strategic financial management, valuation, investment banking, and operations management. He is currently an advisor to several privately held large and medium-sized corporations, including SquidPay Technologies, Inc., ESDC, and of course, Round One. Most recently, he was elected as chairman of the board of PT&T. Prior to that, he was appointed as a regular director and group CFO of PHA, as well as chairman of the board for Happy Child Foundation. Everyone, let us welcome Sir Bob. I'm sure our audience is itching to learn even more about crowdfunding, so let us now proceed with the first question for our panel discussion. Okay, so Sir Bob, from an issuer, we have a question here. How much equity should I allot for my first raise?
All right, that's actually a very good question, but a lot of it depends on. I guess it all depends on how much your capital structure is. So how you structure your capital, and when I say capital, I mean combination of debt and equity. Now, in terms of equity raise, okay, ideally, the guideline is that you have to provide yourself with a runway, meaning it's not, it's most likely it's not going to be the first and only equity raise. And therefore, you should look at probably at least three, three, three equity raises over maybe a period of 3 to 5 years. Having said that, uh, the typical, it depends on what stage you are, no? If it's a pre-seed, if it's a seed, if it is a Series A, all of these things matter. No? So depending on what stage your business is, I would say give or take maximum of 10% for your very first raise, because you want also to leave yourself elbow room to maintain a majority control if that is your desire. To do so. No? So 10, maybe the next round will be another 15, maybe until, if your target is to maintain absolute control, maybe up to 30% over three phase or three tranche series race. So that's what I would advise for startups. But you have, again, this has to be qualified, because you have it depends on at what stage of the journey or the business that you are. That's I think is the best approach to raising capital.
Okay, thank you, Sir Bob. We're just checking a simple technical broadcast challenge. So we shall continue with question number two, Sir Bob, from our another issuer. So aside from the money raise, what other advantages are there in equity crowdfunding?
That's a good question. In equity crowdfunding, it's like going through a public offering, a major public offering, or an IPO, as everyone would put it. So, in answer to the question, uh, the advantage really is, even if you give away control, or even give away a portion of your company, you are still in full control. Also, of course, being equity, there is no term. Unlike a loan, you have to pay regularly, amortizations, if it is a one-time payment at the end of the term of the loan. There's a fixed term. So you have to prepare for that. And normally, in the current scenario that we have today, it's very difficult to get a loan. The banks will ask for collateral and everything. In equity, you give up your part of your ownership, but you still, there is no fixed term. The investor expects some return and in the form of dividends. Or if there is an exit mechanism, like in round one, for example, if an investor invests in your company, there will be a way for him to exit. Typically, investors would look at, okay, I will invest in you. How do I exit? The advantage of equity crowdfunding is that not only is it diversified into many small shareholders, it also gives the shareholders an attractive exit mechanism. So after he invests, he's happy with his returns. He can sell it at, if the company is performing well, he can sell it at a higher price. So he is happy. The company is happy. There is a new investor because somebody bought him out. So it's a very ideal situation. And also the other thing is, given the current banking situation in the Philippines, startups uh, will find it very hard to borrow in a bank. They will ask for collateral. They will ask for land, for example, real property, and so the advantages are there. If you have a good business, a good plan, a good team, especially, then you will definitely attract investors.
Okay, thank you, Sir Bob. Sir Brandon, there's another question here. Do you think that local startups, investors, and the financial community in general are ready for equity crowdfunding?
When you look at the startup space and you see sort of the vibrancy there, I absolutely believe that their idea is worth funding. When it comes to the investing public, I think there's still some bridges to be made, some inroads to be made in sort of building up the concept itself. But I think that's a matter of putting yourself out there and showcasing what we have, talking and communicating the value that we have. So, I can speak for a lot of startups when, as I mentioned before, that lonely feeling of having a good idea. If you look to other parts of the world with more mature investment communities, crowdfunding, has taken seed for a long time now. The UK being one of sort of the oldest, along with North America. The model is there, even though it may be new in the Philippines. A model of startup fundraising has been around for a long time. So as long as we sort of see the idea, I believe we can get people there. And perhaps when they see sort of other, let's say, foreign investors or larger institutions start dipping their toes in this space, it might build up confidence in that respect too. So again, the idea of making it happen is something that has to come together from all sides: issuers, investors, proponents, industry experts, all towards this goal of what is really the goal, right? All towards this goal of helping MSMEs, startups, and innovation. So as long as we can get behind that idea, as long as we understand the impact that that has on our economy, we'll get there. Thank you for that question, Miguel.
Thank you, Sir Bob. Sir Brandon. Sir Bob, any additional input, sir? How about you, sir? What's your opinion? Is our industry and our startup community ready for crowdfunding?
I will not answer that directly. That's a very good question, because the investment, well, the a diversified or a wider investor base. I think it's there. I think there is a lot of waiting from the investor groups to see something different. At the moment, we see a lot of similar crowdfunding arrangements, but they're basically lending. They're lending, they're crowd lending, their donations based. No? And if you look at the, I wouldn't say small, no, but the smaller investors, the individual investors who have some savings, no, that and are looking at the an outlet to invest, then this will be an opportunity, and this is the market we are looking at. These small investors who we can give a different investment portfolio, so to speak. No? So I think it's just a matter of for them gaining an understanding of what is this thing, no? What is equity crowdfunding? I'm going to invest like looking at amounts like 5,000, 10,000. I mean, a lot of people have 10,000 in savings, no? But most of them end up in a bank because they don't know where to put that 10,000. They can't put it in the PSE or the stock market, the stock exchange, because probably too small. So where did they go? They go to UTFs, no? Small investments. They go to platforms like Crop-Vital. You invest 5,000. After the harvest, you get your return. This one is different. They will now have an opportunity to invest in company, exit that investment, invest in another company. So you're actually providing an avenue for them to play the stock market in the MSME segment of the market, which is, if you think about it, it can probably be 100 times in number of issuers bigger than the present stock exchange, but less investments, less in terms of absolute investments. So I think it's there. It's largely untapped, and it's an opportunity we need to get. That's
Okay.
my take on it.
Thank you, Sir Bob. Actually, with the given situation, we have pandemic right now, and of course, all the startup, including established businesses, wanted to generate funding for their businesses. There's another question here. When they wanted to try to attract the investor, what are the key factors that they have to keep in mind to make sure that their pitches and campaign are attracted to investor?
Brando, you might want to take a crack at
Sir
that.
Brandon?
Apologies. Mix, could you repeat the question?
I'll repeat the question, Sir Brandon. A lot of startup, a lot of startup and business owners wanted to keep in mind that they are keeping the key factor to attract investors. So, what is your advice and in the general perspective on how they can attract investor and of course, finally raise capital for their businesses?
I think one thing to think about and remember is that every investor is different. Every investor is sort of looking for a different thing. You have investors who are more conservative, who are looking for steady rates of return, who are looking for steady dividends. You have investors on the other side of the coin willing to take a risk. And then even on the other side of the coin, investors who want to solely invest in social impact projects. So ask yourself, what kind of investor would want to invest in me based off of my company's profile? I think the target audience is important in a way when you're telling a story. As I mentioned before, I like using that analogy. So I put myself in sort of the position of the investor. In some ways, as I mentioned, they become something like a partner. So you want to key in on an investor that shares your vision as well. So I would say you can't be everything to everyone. Stick with what you do well and stick with what you're doing right now that works. And those investors will come. As I mentioned, you keep telling your story, you keep putting the story out there, spread that story, and the investors will come.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Brandon. Sir Bob, I think you can give us a good answer to this next question. What would be the ideal portfolio composition for someone looking to raise capital through a mix of traditional financing options and alternative financing options such as crowdfunding?
Uh, that's uh, that's actually a good question, and it's
That's a very good question.
it's one of the hardest questions in any for any company, big or small or micro for that matter. All right, the question really is, okay, I need financing. How much would I borrow if I borrow? How much would be equity? Of that equity, how much would be mine? How much would I give up? So those are the questions that come to mind when someone starts a business that tells himself, okay, I have a great idea. I have bootstrapped it. It's now working. It's gaining traction. I need to grow. Where do I get the money? Do I borrow? Do I do I do I? It's a whole set of financial questions actually. But let's take the typical. Typically, you don't want to borrow more than for startups, no? Maybe, or even for someone or a business that's already gained some kind of traction. You wouldn't want to borrow. You wouldn't want to leverage because leveraging, while in theory is less costly than equity, is also more risky than equity. Uh, So then the next question is, do I do it myself? Do I equity everything? Let's say you decide, okay, I'm not gonna borrow more than 25% of my total assets. Okay. Okay, so I go on a ratio of debt to equity of say 1:4. Okay. So then where do I get the other three? So that then the question is, as I said earlier, no, maybe you want to give up up to 10% because you want to give yourself a lot of runway. Also, I mean, in your future races, as you grow the business, money that you need will also grow, and it will not grow. Generally, it grows exponentially as you if your business grows rapidly. No? And most startups, uh, if they go after a certain critical mass, growth becomes exponential. growing from a small base to a big. Growing from a small base is easy than growing from a big base to the next stage. So, in answer, yeah, in the long and short of um, it depends on your plans. No? What are your expectations? What are your plans for growing your business? Then the question of where to find the money to be able to achieve those goals will be. There's no average. There is no standard answer. It's actually a case to case. But if you want to put some kind of rule of thumb, um, you'd probably be a 40-60 debt. That should get you on a very stable footing as a rule, as a standard rule. But beyond that, it becomes a case to case. For example, I'll give you something. In a trading business, for example, where I came from in the sugar trading, we were leveraged like, we were leveraging like 10:1, no? 10 to debt and 1 equity. But that's trading because your money turns over very quickly. But if you are, for example, in another industry, in another business, it will be different. So something which requires more assets, solid assets on the ground, you cannot leverage yourself very high. So on average, I would say 40 debt, 60 equity. That should that should that should bring you on a more stable footing. But there is no
Okay.
answer. There's no definite answer.
Okay, sir. We have a lot of questions coming in from the audience. Next one is, do investors automatically become shareholders in equity crowdfunding? So we're looking into units being bought by investors for your company and dividend sharing among investors. Let me repeat the question. Do investors automatically become shareholders in equity crowdfunding? So we're looking into units being bought by investors for your company and dividend sharing among investors.
Yes, that would be the major premise of equity crowdfunding. That upon conclusion of a offering campaign, a fundraising campaign offering, all investors who committed funds to that campaign would then receive the equity that you apportioned for them upon conclusion of that campaign.
Okay. Next question. Is it true that round one is where we can invest like mutual funds for startup?
The premise would also be direct investment. So a mutual fund is usually a fund comprised of many different assets, different companies, both public and private. So the vehicle with which there would be no mutual fund vehicle per se to invest into crowdfunding. It would be a direct from your pocket to the issuer's pocket, to the fundraiser's pocket. However, there have been models that are interesting, exotic wealth products where, ventures that are sort of crowdfunding size are packaged together under sort of bank wealth products introduced to various sort of like risky investors. So that sort of model exists. Very interesting that someone brought that up, that, this is something that you could explore, where a bank creates, for example, a wealth product out of green energy crowdfunding ventures and offers you shares in a mutual fund like that. So I love that idea because it brings together the community of investments together. It allows people exposure to a space that wasn't there before. So for example, a very niche space like green, small sort of power projects that are green tech. That's something to really explore when this platform matures. So very happy that that question was thrown out to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I may add also, no, a mutual fund is a mix of various different investors, a whole lot more than one. No? And a fund invests in various assets. And as Brandon was saying, some mutual funds have have targets. For example, green energy. or impact investments. But round one per se is not a mutual fund. Mutual funds can invest in round one. For example, I participate. I invested in a mutual fund, say XYC mutual fund. XYC mutual fund can invest in round one. For example, if it is targeting green 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 products or green energy companies, if an issuer, for example, in round one raises capital through round one, it is possible that a mutual fund can actually invest in round. So it is not the investor, but it is the fund that invests in round one. Round one is a more direct. So if I invest directly into that issuer. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, sir. So next is what can you advise startups that are currently struggling to raise funds, especially for those that are not getting much interest from investors?
Hmm. Good
Um,
question.
yes.
I guess the all right. Interest is relative, right? I mean, uh, you may not be interested in that issue, but I may be. For example, I'm not interested in impact investing, but there are because that's not my thing. My thing is I'd like to invest in retail, for example. So impact investing, there is a issuer that plans to manufacture something. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in another another. So the idea of not having interest to me, is relative. Maybe you are not looking at the right audience. Because I think there are investments for anything. It's just a matter of an issuer, not looking for who my target. And that goes to the earlier question that Brandon answered. Unless you have really a well, of course, the other thing is your business model may not be viable. That's a different story altogether.
I
But
think, sir,
assuming
Bob,
our business is viable, and you know, I think there will be investors. It's just a matter
I
of
think
looking.
I think I agree with you, Sir Bob. I think one of the beauty in round one is we are onboarding mentors and advisors that will definitely help the startup generate much attention, and of course to streamline and reinforce their business plan and their business cases to be more attractive to investors.
Yeah,
That's one
yeah.
of the good features in round one. All right,
Yeah,
let's
of
proceed
course,
with
your issue or your company must have a unique model, no? Business model
yes,
that
sir.
is attractive. No? That's the basic premise. So, for example, I start a carinderia. No? Nobody's going to invest in you. You're just a me too business. No, nobody's going to invest. Probably your relatives, yourself, but you have to have a good model. I think that's the key. You have
I
to have a
think
good business model.
I think one of the embedded insight there, Sir Bob, is maybe they also wanted to know the differentiation. They want to how they can differentiate their business from one business to another to it for it to become more attractive to investor.
It's
All right,
exactly right.
Sir Bob. For the next question, Sir Brandon, let's allow me to indulge for a little fast talk with you guys. So, um, big, is equity crowdfunding for everyone? A yes or no?
To me, I don't think so.
No, it's not for everyone.
Okay. In your
It's
opinion, what industry
yeah.
would benefit most from equity crowdfunding?
Say that. Repeat. Which industry would benefit most?
From
Oh, that's a
equity
good question.
crowdfunding.
Wow, that's something that I think needs more thought. It's really the stage that we've always thought about, but what kind of industry could benefit? Um, Industries, I mean, for example, the startup community, where you offer equity to sort of bring in investors where debt may not come in. So for example, a industry where you're not going to find debt through invoice financing, for example. I think that's one way to think about it. But that's a very good question. I can't even answer that right now off the top of
Yeah,
my
it's
head.
very hard to
Yeah.
answer that because generally any industry will attract an investor. But that, again, the basic question is, even, okay, let me put it in another way. For example, fintech now is very hot. Uh, a lot of people would like to invest in fintech, no? But not all fintech will attract equity crowdfunding. And then it goes back to, again, something that is unique, something that is attractive, something that is financially and operationally viable, and a potential for growth, something that will differentiate you rather than a me too company, something that is differentiable, then you will attract. And it doesn't matter what industry you belong. You can be in retail, you can be in manufacturing, you can be in technology, you can be in, you will, but you have to have something unique. You can't be let's say, Dick and Harry company. You won't attract investors, even if it is in the fintech business.
Okay, for our next panel discussion, what do you think the future of equity crowdfunding, both here and abroad, will it be like? How about in Web 4.0?
I think how we clearly define Web 4.0 is up to debate. It's hard to say. Well, for example, there has been the cryptoization of securities and assets, right? Maybe that might come into play. Decentralized finance, the idea that, these impacts right now are fragmenting the way old things are done and bringing them back together in new and unique ways. I think crowdfunding really does that. It doesn't disrupt, but it does sort of like support what's going on. It brings what's going on in the space, at least in the financial industry, to sort of a wider audience. Allows them to participate in sort of a smaller way, like, for example, fractional shares of fractional coins, for example. So that's really the idea, and that's what I think we can look forward to. New novel ways of entering into investments, getting in out of investments. The globe just getting closer and closer. Being able to invest in similar assets in other countries. So everything really just coming closer together when we talk about the parameters of Web 4.0 and where we're going, I think. But I'm not a tech visionary or anything like that. So I'll leave that to the Elon Musks of the world, I guess, to answer.
Okay, next question, Sir Bob, Sir Brandon. What is the minimum investment amount to start investing in a business?
That's sometimes defined by the issuer. When an issuer does a crowdfunding campaign, they have to be aware of the fact that they don't want fractional shares. They don't want someone holding one share. So the answer to that, sorry that it's a little roundabout, but the fundraiser will set the minimum investment amount. So let's say one share of the company is worth 10,000 pesos. The fundraiser can say that the minimum investment is 10 shares or 100,000 pesos. So it's really up to the issuer themselves. And for yourself, it's really whether or not that's appealing to you as an investor. So that's how the minimum investment amounts are set. But that being said, they can go very low if the issuer abides to that.
Yeah, or it could be in the form of lots. For example, your shares, you're selling your shares at 2 pesos per share. You can say, okay, the minimum lot is 10,000 shares. So you can either express it in amount or express it in share lots, just like in the stock exchange.
Bob, I wanted to actually circle back to another question, Miguel, like one of the older questions about how much equity I should offer. I wanted to point out something. Right? Put yourself in the investor's shoes. Be very careful about the message you send when you sell equity, right? Imagine a situation where you're selling more than 50% of your company. An investor may say, who's going to run the company after the shares are sold?
True.
Something I wanted to bring up that I was just reminded about. That's another key consideration in how much equity you want to give during the rounds. You have to look that far. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the investor. It looks like, oh, is the current management cashing out? Why would I want to invest in a company like that? So that's another little tidbit that people need to be aware of when they do their races. Sorry to back. Thanks.
It's okay, guys. So to wrap up our panel discussion and then our question and answer portion, our last question is from an investor. So of course, this is a very important question. How long can they get their ROI, Sir Bob? So, the usual question of an investor is, when can I get my money back with the interest and the income? So,
Let me answer that question in a
sure,
little
sir.
bit of a roundabout way. When an investor in round one, and we're talking of round one this time, when an investor on round one sees an issuer offering equity in round one in the platform, there will be an opportunity for him to look into the company. He will actually do his own due diligence, and therefore he will look at, and to be more specific, he will look at the business plan and the financial projections and what the company plans to do in terms of giving that ROI. So just like any investment, this is a plan. If properly executed, will will achieve its milestones. So in that plan, the investor will see when and how much ROI he will expect to get, assuming that the plans are executed smoothly and the economic conditions and everything that goes into the mix of achieving those plans are in. So that will answer his question in terms of when and how much. So it's an issuer to issuer basis. No? Of course, the SEC also allows that an investor, for example, in a equity crowdfunding platform, allows uh, me as an investor to sell my shares. And then that becomes a market driven, if an issuer you bought at 2 pesos, and now because he's doing very well, his valuation is now 3 pesos, no? And the market will show that. So if that opportunity arises sooner than later, he can actually say, "Oh, I'm happy with a 1 peso gain, or I need some liquidity, and therefore I need to cash in my investment." Then that opportunity will be available. Hopefully, soon in round one. But that's something that round one is looking at. So either you exit via, or you get your return via the dividends, because again, if there is a dividend policy in the issuer, then he can get it of the dividend. Still own his shares of stocks and hope that appreciates over time. So that's a return he can get. Or he trades the shares, or he can trade, sell, buy again, just like the stock. When the stock is low, you buy, and then when the stock is high, you sell. No? I mean, you can do that. I mean, there's nothing that will prevent you from doing that in an equity crowdfunding. Now,
May I
Kraken,
ask,
you want to add?
may I add something really quick? To answer that question, you also should think about it this way as well. Okay, imagine an early stage company getting to its first series, getting past pre-seed, right? When you talk about Series A, B, C, whatever IPO, there's D1, D2, D3. You're talking about what's called liquidation events. And when you're talking about ROI in that sense of stock appreciation, think about it like this. You're coming at an early stage. The round one platform, the ecosystem are building these companies up to Series A, B, and C, these liquidation events. So that's what you can look forward to. Without sort of this space where we're guiding early stage up to series, you don't have really an entry, right? You might not even be invited to a Series A or a Series B, for example. You might be lucky if you do. However, coming in at the early stage, letting us do our magic and the hard work and sweat, getting them to Series A is a potential exit, is a potential return on investment for you at that liquidation event. So that's also one way to see why equity at early stage might be an interesting concept for both investors and issuers alike. So I just wanted to maybe expand the question as well, not just, hey, I'm going to look for a dividend when you guys get operational. Lots of startups don't get those dividends until many years. They're looking at growth. They're folding back all the revenues into growth. And growth to get to that magical, for example, IPO number, 100 million peso market cap, 500 million peso market cap. And from early stage all the way to IPO, Bob, I mean, or the audience here, you could possibly be looking at a 10x, 20x.
10x, maybe even bigger.
But it's not an easy road. I'm not hyping anything. It's not an easy road, and that road can take years. but it can be something like a 20x a 20x proposition in a few years.
Yeah, I like the point you made, Brandon, that dividends for startups, you don't generally see them until many years after,
No,
because
yeah.
the money tends to go back to the business rather than to shareholders.
Yeah.
But in terms of share appreciation, you will see your share price going. Now, how do you exit? Brandon explained it.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Bob, Sir Brandon. Let's wrap up our panel discussion and our Q&A portion. We will proceed with our announcing of 5 winners of the Best Business Pitch Award. The winners will be awarded a 25,000 worth of advisory services, as well as a chance to raise up to 50 million on the Round 1 platform. I would like to encourage the winner to turn their camera so we can take your photo for every time I mention the winners and the representative and the owners. All right, so without further ado, we are pleased to announce our finalists for the Best Business Pitch Award. So that's Farmbox, Tiwala, Via by Sender, Aslex PH Academy, Isla Capsule, Shoshavi, Trash Cash, Hayahay by Alcadia System Corporation, Alaga Health, OMG, Oh My Genie, Better Team, Wella School System, and Cocotel. So without the suspense, so let me call on our first winner. Our first winner is an end-to-end school system where students and parents can view their grades, announcements, and billing statements through a mobile app. Their solutions take care of the manual processes of partner schools and automates these processes for the organization to ultimately focus on what is important, delivering quality education. Okay, congratulations to Wella School System, represented by Mr. Christian Casino. Ayan. Congratulations, Christian, and to the whole Wella School System. Later on, sir, you will be joined by other winners for a general briefing with our Round 1 team. All right? Sir, please stay for a few seconds for our photo op. Thank you. Okay. Our second winner is a technology hotel and property management aggregator company aiming to empower tourism in the Philippines by partnering with local hotels and resort owners, offering quality and affordable 3-star accommodation at a fraction of a cost. Congratulations to Cocotel, represented by its owner, Mr. Daimler Villena. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. For our third winner, it helps BPO companies improve employees' experience from employee sentiment analytics to streamline rewards and recognition, and most importantly, improving employee mental health. They prioritize what matters to employees and ultimately the organization they work for. Congratulations to Better Team, represented by its owner, Sir Ray Demasig. Congratulations, sir. Okay, our next winner, our fourth winner, offers easiest way to safely purchase your groceries. It's like Netflix, but for groceries. Just chill at home while you assign Shopper Genie does the shopping for you. Recognized as Cebu's favorite online grocery and delivery service. Congratulations to OMG Oh My Genie, represented by Mr. Enrique San Juan. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Sir Miguel.
And finally, our fifth winner operates with a mandate of better healthcare anytime, anywhere, in any way dedicated to hope, healing, and recovery for all patients. They are the Philippines' first digital health marketplace and health service hub for MSMEs. Congratulations to Alaga Health. represented by its founder and owner, Dr. Dexter Galban. Congratulations, Doc. Okay, a big congratulations to all the winners. We will now be taking a group photo. Please turn on your cameras again for our group photos. And so give us your big smile for this momentous occasion. This is a big dream for your startup, moment to shine with Sir Bob and Sir Brandon. Congratulations from your Round One family. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Your big smile. All right. Thank you very much. So again, thank you to all the finalists. You have given your best in this business pitch award. So we look forward to strengthen your startup, and please shoot us a message if you wanted to work with us further. So make sure to follow us at Round One PH on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thank you for staying with us till the end, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. For all the winners of Business Pitch Award, please join us for a short briefing after our official broadcast. This has been your host, Miguel, now signing off. Take care and God bless everyone.
Are you an entrepreneur or business owner looking to level up your business? Are you in search of investors? Or do you need management consultancy, guidance, and support? If so, Round One is for you. Round One is an online platform that matches your company to potential investors and partners from all over the country. Through the Round One platform, you can pitch your business, promote your product or service, and reach out to potential funders, all through our easy-to-use online platform. But we are more than just a platform. Immerse yourself in a wide network of investors, incubators, and advisors, all ready to help you throughout your fundraising journey. Round One is managed by Eastern Securities Development Corporation, a registered Philippine stock brokerage. Through our partnerships with various banking and financial institutions, collaboration with some of the best advisors in the field, and through our work with other government, educational, and private organizations, we aim to bring your business to higher heights. Now the only question is, are you ready for the next round? Let Round One help you transform your ideas into reality. Follow us on social media at round1.ph and reach out to us at info@round1.ph.